Hello, I'm Bonnie Burkert, and this is Truth Be Told, Transformation, sharing tools for transformation to live your highest truth. So today I'd like to discover and explore some of the truths that come from other cultures and a culture that I'm personally quite interested in, Japan. So I'm very happy to introduce our guest, Yoichi Utebi. Hi, Yoichi.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me on your show today. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Well, you can see over Yoishi's shoulder if you happen to be watching on YouTube or if you're
Yes.
listening. He is the producer of an upcoming film called The Cherry Bushido.
Hmm.
And we're going to talk a little bit. This is a spiritual film, yet also in the tradition of the samurai warrior kendo. And I think it's going to be such an interesting discussion, blending all of these different philosophies, as well as a message that seems to apply to current day.
Mm.
So let's talk first off with the introduction as to what does it mean, Bushido?
Okay, so Cherry Bushido. Cherry is like you can see in the back here. There's a cherry blossom here,
Yes.
right? And you can see the Mount Fuji as well, right? So it's a, spirit of Japan. We call it Yamato spirit, but it's a spirit of Japan. And Bushido is I don't know if somebody is interested in like a martial art or Japanese culture, you might have heard of the word Bushido. But I don't think some of them, from what I've been speaking, are the producers and the movie people around in Hollywood. Not many people even know the meaning of Bushido. They have like Bushido. What is it, right?
Yes.
So Bushido is it's very old Japanese traditional way of life or way of living for samurai. So it's like a code of samurai,
Okay.
right? So samurai's way. So if you hear that, you might kind of have an image, the samurai warriors, right? So that's the way of life that they were living. In the Warsaw word, I think we can call it as like the code of knights in England,
Yes.
or the chivalry.
Chivalry. That's a very
Chivalry.
interesting
Yeah,
comparison. I know
it's
when.
similar to chivalry, I
Okay,
guess,
yeah,
but it
that's
has
great.
really
And
a lot of a Japanese spirit in it, I guess.
well, very ancient and a
Yes.
code of ethics, a code of moral ethics. And then would you say that there is a physical practice that goes with that as well?
Yes, definitely, definitely. So because samurais, right? Samurais, they are warriors. So every all the spirit in samurai warriors spirit has been transformed into kendo. I don't know if you know, kendo is a very traditional Japanese. I guess you can say sports
Okay.
nowadays, right? And the spirit of kendo is spirit of bushido, and and that comes from the warriors that used to, samurai warriors that used to live. And this Bushido, we don't know the actual origin, but we know it existed like 800 years ago, at least. And so samurai warriors, they have the like a swordsmanship,
Yes.
how to use this actual swords, but that was not enough for them. So they combined Buddhism, Shintoism, and Confucianism. Those are very popular religions that the Bushido samurais were studying. So they combine this. That's why it's not just how to use the swords, but also there's a morality and ethics to it. But a lot of times the spirits of Bushido is incorporated into martial arts. So if you do like a karate, judo, kendo, all these Japanese martial arts have the teachings. Right in the center of the teaching is the Bushido spirits, and there's eight conducts or eight virtues of Bushido that we talk about.
Okay, let's talk about
Yeah,
that.
virtues. Okay,
Okay.
so usually if you like Google the internet,
Hmm.
you're gonna find seven virtues. But since we are happy science, we are religious or we are spiritual. I'm spiritual. I add one more, and I add faith to it.
Okay.
So there's eight virtues. One is like justice, integrity, and righteousness. That's very important nowadays, especially now. What is right and what is wrong, right? So you need to align with the justice from your inner self, but also from what the God's eye or the universe's eye. If you don't like to use the word gods, Buddha, God, universe, we're all the same. All come from one source, right? So really, to see what is right and what is wrong from higher perspective. That's why it's important. So that's integrity, righteousness. And the second point is the courage. Courage is really nowadays to step up and speak out, or even act upon what you think or what the society think is right. And so sometimes you need the courage. So Bushido warriors had courage, and they had respect. So respect is, I think, it's a foundation of communication with each other. It's a manner. It's a kindness. It's a caring for each others. So respecting each other is very important. It's a very Japanese way, of understanding. And another one is number 4 is compassion. It's love, right? We all know from Jesus' teaching, love is not to take from others, but love is to give. So let's be compassionate everybody around us. Okay? And number 5 is honesty and sincerity. When you talk about honesty, first you have to be honest to yourself. That's challenging nowadays. Really be honest to your God's nature, Buddha nature within yourself. And I think many people would be ashamed of themselves if they really think it that way. But you also want to be, honest to other people as well. So you don't want to cheat or lie. You don't want to make any excuses, right? Always keep your promises, and that's how you gain trust. So samurai was always honest and very sincere. And number 6 is honor. Again, this is it's kind of difficult to describe honor in modern days, but I would say selflessness. I would put it in a way it's selflessness. To put aside what you want to do and what you think is the best thing to do, but think about what is better for others instead of just for yourself, but think about others first. I think that is like honor and honor. And also the last one is loyalty. Again, loyalty is very similar to honor. It's a sense of nobility. It's a high morality, and also same thing, and selflessness. The last one is faith. I think at the end of the day, even how much you practice these 7 virtues, if you don't have the right faith, you don't have anything that you rely on, or if you think like you are the best, the humans are the best, and we are like the God, then that's the ego, and that is not how the Bushido spirit should be. And having faith in higher existence, that's how humans we can become humble, and that's how we can practice these 7 other 8 virtues, and coming all together, that combines into like a core spirit of Japan. So in short
that's
summary.
great. No, thank you. That's really great. So, all right. So I've taken note of all of these, and we'll come back to them. I would like to, again, as the producer of the film, I'd like to invite you to tell us a little bit about the film and how maybe some of these virtues that you've mentioned will be conveyed in the story that's being shared.
Okay, so there's a girl, you can see. I'm sorry, it's here, right? I'm sorry.
We'll make sure that there are links everywhere for you to check it out, just so you know, because she's fabulous. And yes, so go ahead. She's the star. And
yes, she's a very famous actor in Japan. There's a lot of famous actresses in this movie as well. But the story takes in Japan, of course. And Japan is facing a great danger of a missile attack and invasion from a neighboring country called Sodora Republic. And it's, of course, fictional country's name. But, if you see the reality in the world, you can kind of assume which countries we are talking about here, right? And so the courageous girl, she's like the national champion of Kendo in Japan. She's like the top-notch Kendo girl. She's like a really Bushido-spirited girl, which is very rare to find nowadays in Japan. And so one day she goes through a lot of difficult, she meets a lot of people, and she realizes that she has a mission. She has a mission to really to protect Japan. So she has a big burden in her shoulder. She wakes up, she's awakened to it. And there is a demon called Demon of Hades in the spiritual world. He's a bad guy, okay? And he's the one who's actually controlling the Sodora Republic from behind the scene.
Right.
And
He's like he's kind of he's in an alternate dimension, correct?
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which is,
It's
but
just-
he's affecting things in the present, in the
Yeah.
present 3D world, which is
That's right.
pretty creepy.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So they find out that he's the guy that they need to defeat. So what they do is they go out of the body, astral travel. They go out to the body into that spiritual world. That's the world that Hades is living, and they fight. But they fight for the love of the country. They fight for the people that they love, and at the end of the day, see what happens. So in very
Okay.
short
Yeah.
summary,
Don't tell us.
it's very exciting and very action-oriented Japanese movie with a lot of action. But because we are happy science and we are spiritual things that we want to convey to the world, so there's a lot of important messages in this movie, I would say.
No, I like that. It's a good blend,
Yeah.
and I'm a big fan of introducing spiritual motifs through
Mm-hmm.
action, and we've seen that in classic films like a Star Wars, even. Correct? I
right,
mean,
yes.
so and there's many others, but that was the first thing that came to mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, Yoichi, you mentioned Happy Science, so why don't you introduce that as well?
Okay, so Happy Science. Thank you for letting me introduce Happy Science. Happy Science is a spiritual movement. We are a religious corporation in Japan. So you could say we are a religious organization. In United States, it's a non-profit organization, NPO. Happy Science was established by the producer of this film. His name is Ryuho Okawa in 1986. And since then, the Happy Science has been very, very active in Japan and also around the world. There's branches everywhere around the world, and we are spread over 140 countries or something. So most countries, even how small it is, there's Happy Science in the country. And we try to seek the true happiness that is happiness of this materialistic world, because it's important that we are happy here, but at the same time we don't want to lose the true happiness of the spiritual happiness that is inside. So we want to show the way of how to be successful in this world and be happy, but also be very happy and peaceful and have a serenity over your mind spiritually. So it's like a balance between spirituality and this life.
Yes.
Very short explanation. Yeah.
No, that's excellent. Now, would you tell me why the term science in Happy Science? I'm fascinated
Yeah.
with that.
In Japanese, it's called Kofuku no Kagaku, which means science of happiness.
Okay.
It's not happy, so it's really science of happiness. So, happiness comes from inside, not just outside. Sometimes outside too, but most of it, it's more important inside, because how poor you are, or how rich, or let's say, even how rich you are, if you are not happy and you are fulfilled inside, have happiness, you are not happy. But even how not wealthy you are, if you are happy inside, then you are happy spiritually. So, you need to science your mind. You really explore, go deep into your heart and your mind and spirituality to find what is true happiness for your soul and for your spirit. So that is really like sciencing, discovering what is true happiness or the truth about yourself. So that's why it's called happy science. Instead of saying science of happiness, you just kind of flipped it and it just says happy science.
Well, no, I'm all about a good catchy
Yeah,
name,
it's
so I
catchy,
like
yeah.
that. Good branding. No, it's interesting, and I'm a yogi, and the practice, my discipline, it's referred to as a technology as well. So I think that just having a chance to look at it as there are steps to this.
That's right. Yeah,
right?
definitely.
And
Yeah.
certainly a
happiness.
practice and a procedure that how one can live one's life for certain results. So I really want to convey that with everyone I talk to, because I'm sharing with different speakers that have different ways of doing this. And it's great to talk to somebody from Japan to learn more about your point of view on this. And because a lot of, certainly Buddhist traditions and Zen and Nichiren Shoshu Buddhism is something that I'm familiar with from quite some time ago. Long time familiarity with that. So it's interesting to see where you're at now in the 2020s, and how things are going and developing. And I'm sure people need it more than ever. They certainly do in this country. So I don't know how it would be any different in your country. So now tell me, I'd love to know, let's bring it back to the film. So I understand your concept and what is needed, and through Happy Science and what you wish to convey. So by storytelling through some of the kendo samurai traditions and certainly action, do you feel that it has an appeal to perhaps younger audiences, but maybe broader, because we look to the East for some amazing action movies? So tell me your thoughts on that as this all came together.
Definitely. Our target audience is everybody. The spirituality is for everybody. So for the adult, it has a very direct message of a danger that we are facing in this world today. Danger of communism, it could be terrorism, dictatorship, censoring world, world of Orwellian, surveillancing world, the government trying to surveillance our life, control our life. It's a fight for the freedom. So, there's a lot of things that's happening around the world. It really connects directly to this movie. So it's a great, thing for the adults to watch. But also, it's kind of exciting and entertainment, and these younger generations, right? Heroes and heroines, they actually leave their body and go to a different space and fight the bad guys. So it's a great I think movie for the younger age as well. It's by the way, it's rated PG-13. We just been rated in US. So anybody who's over 13 can go with their friends, and I think it's a very good way to share the message for the younger generation today around the world, especially it could be in the United States too, because kids love the virtual world. They are all into virtual world, and they love Japanese anime, and they are more familiar actually with Japanese culture than some of the adults in America. They know so much about Japanese culture through manga and animation. So it has like an animation kind of touch. It's like Avengers or Marvel kind of touch. It's not, we didn't spend much money on it, so it's not that high quality, but the energy is there. So I think it'll be a great movie for younger generation to watch and learn something from it, something very important, for their
I love that. I thought your effects were pretty darn good, but you didn't have a $220 million budget the way like Marvel does with their movies.
Tiny. Yes.
Well, no, that's not to it's not to put away from again like some great color and just great characters. I mean, it's fun, and it really and what I've seen, it really conveys quite a bit about life in Japan, and I like that. And one of the things I wanted to see was talk to you about was the meditation that I saw. So there was some beautiful meditating that was going on, and some of the techniques. So tell me about that in the movie, and I mean, to what extent that also is part of your practice.
So they meditation called Eightfold Path. Okay. It's a very traditional not Japanese Buddhism, because Happy Science incorporate a lot of Buddhism as a base. So they look into themselves, each day and really look deep inside and to self-reflect upon the deeds and their thoughts and their action and things like that. And there's another important message that we want to convey is called one day, one life. One day, one life. Okay. Means live your day, live today as if it's your last day. And that is very like a samurai spirit way of thinking, because in samurai days, warrior days, right? They used to have a sword, by the hip, and they'll walk down the street. If they meet somebody and they decide to take out the sword, that's the time either you're gonna either die or he's gonna die, right? So they were always facing death every day, every single day. So death and was so living was so serious for them. So the idea of one day one life comes from there. That do not regret your day. When if you are going to happen to die 7 p.m. tonight, what are the things that you regret if you don't do it right now? If you think about it, I think there's so much things that you want to do or you should have done before you leave this body and go back to heaven. So, every day in the morning when you wake up, just think about one day, one life. What is it that I should be doing today? Let's practice this, let's do this, do that, do that. So it's a very practical way, but also it kind of makes you a very high morality and high level of spirituality, a one day, one life kind of thing. So that is like a very important message we also want to convey to this movie.
Yeah, that's great. I kind of want to talk to you about that because I feel that sometimes younger people, and perhaps I'm speaking about myself in my younger, wilder years, they would just like live each day as if it's your last. And that is almost an invitation to just go crazy.
Yeah.
And do dumb things like,
Yes.
you know what I'm talking about. Like just
it's fun, but yeah.
Yeah, just getting right. Do you know what I mean? So
Yep.
I think that for anyone that maybe be hearing this at some point, I know that as I've gotten older and wiser, it's not necessarily about dumbing the senses. If anything, you want to be more presently here than ever.
Yeah.
So when Yoichi talks to us about one day, one life, and living as if it could be your last, it's really actually probably about being crystal clear.
Yep.
Right? And just
It's so
taking
clear,
it
yep.
in its fullest.
Yep.
And not this escapism that some people, crazy, are taking it as escapism because we're going to be gone anyway. So
Right. It's gonna end today. The life is gonna end today anyway. So let's just do whatever we want to do, kind of idea, right? Yeah.
Right.
That's the wrong way to take it. Yep.
So something a little bit more transcendent, one can hope, and I hope that we're all going to explore.
Yep.
So right through all of this. Now you've talked about some of the moral codes, and it's interesting. And one of the first things you said in the list of 8 or 9 was it was justice.
Justice.
And,
yeah.
I think it kind of harkens back to the days that our knights or samurai warriors were. I mean, it's interesting because there was a lot, like you say, they were there with the sword, and people died a lot regularly.
Yep.
In a different way than nowadays. So I think that as our world gets more and more populated, we probably need to take a look at, the different forms of justice for different people and ultimately knowing peace.
That's right. Yeah. So, Master Okawa from Happy Science, the founder and also the producer, executive producer, he said, Bushido, I just have this on paper, so I'm just reading. He said the Bushido is like the way of life of a brave soul, that has chosen the path of justice over self-interest.
Okay.
So that's like Bushido in one word. It's a brave soul. People, those souls are very brave. They stand up and they choose the path of justice over their self-interest. So if there is a self-interest in it, then is it justice or not? I don't know. That's the question that we had to ask, I think. For example, I think the best example is a Lincoln. I hope everybody likes Lincoln. Do not be offended if you don't like Lincoln. There's a free will. So sometimes people like Lincoln, but sometimes people don't. That's the world we're living in. But Lincoln, he put his entire life to end slavery because he heard the voice of God. This is a wrong thing for the humanity. So Lincoln, you have to end the slavery. And he said he heard the voices of God, so he went out there and do it. But in order to do that, to complete his mission, the young generation's life, 600,000, maybe like 1 million, some people say, lives had to be lost. The innocent life has to be lost. So I'm sure Lincoln went through so much struggle through his life of losing so much innocent lives just to realize what he thinks is the right thing to do. But he knew it wasn't for himself, it was the God's voice. So, he was assassinated at the theater. But before he was assassinated at the theater, there's a story that he saw a dream like at least 3 times that he was going to be assassinated at the theater. So all the guardsmen and family people said, don't go to the theater because it's not a good thing to do. He knew he was going to be assassinated, but he went there anyway because he knew that was a kind of responsibility and to take that he needed to take to finish off the things that he had to do. So that's kind of samurai spirit, I think.
Fabulous. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for telling some of our own U.S. history. I mean, it's really, really great. No, I appreciate that. And I've definitely been thinking about President Lincoln, with the celebration of him at the time of taping.
Yeah.
And so,
No,
that's a really great example. And that does take courageousness. And I think it's something that we need right now because there's a lot of, unfortunately, we have to stand. This is part of the messaging of the show as well, standing in our truth.
Yeah.
And there's all these kind of crazy, there's this whole sort of alternate truth that people talk about right now, right? That's like a creepy sort of subversion that exists out there on the internet and other places. And so I really, I think that it's great that you're inviting people to turn inwards, to kind of listen, really listen to that moral code.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's so difficult. Just look around the world, what's happening between U.S. and Russia and China and Canada. Every world there's something's happening, and we have to ask what is true justice. And it's just so difficult nowadays to really judge what is right and what is wrong. It's probably one of the most difficult days now. I think so. It's a big challenge even for us, right? Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. So let's talk one of the other points, and that is kind of about the royalty or morality. And I think it sort of interweaves here, but you take it up. You take it up to another level, I feel, and maybe an invitation for people that want to be on this path and knowing that there's a responsibility, right?
That's right.
To become regal in your passion, in your truth.
Yes, definitely. Responsibility is something. It's very, very important, I think. So being loyal means. I think loyal means loyal to yourself, right?
Yeah.
And to be selfless and to give love and do the things that other people want you to do for them, not the things you want them to do for you. It's opposite. Usually people would want that person sitting next to you to do what you want them to do, but how many people actually think about what would they want me to do for them. So those are kind of ideas that really need to have as a baseline. And as you say, responsibility, I think, comes in with that. Definitely.
So let's bring it. Talking about the movie, how was it working with the actors? Did they get sort of trained in on some of the philosophy to make it that much more authentic? I mean, I was just kind of curious.
Yeah, of course. And also trying to convey the true spirit of Bushido is probably the hardest part. It's the spirituality side, because anybody can get trained how to use a sword and do this and do that, right? Anybody can. I mean, not anybody, but if you're a pretty sporty person, if you are trained by the specialist, there's a specialist who does that, right? Of course. And I'm sure everybody, all the actors and actresses, has been trained, but to really understand the spiritual side, the true inner side of Bushido spirit, is probably the hardest part. And I don't know, maybe we weren't able to convey that part as much as we really wanted to, because we didn't want to keep it like a superficial, just how it looks, but it has to come from within inside. Because when people watch it, and when people, we are as humans are inspired by something, we are inspired not just with eyes. Of course, eyes are very important, and ear, you hear and you see, but the sixth sense, the spirituality is where we really react. The human beings, as human beings, we react and get inspired. So when we create any movies in Happy Science, the most effort that we put in is not just how it should look and how it should come together, but the energy, the spirituality, how much of passion and love there is within that 2 hours. So when they watch the movie and when they go out, they're gonna say, "Oh, it was a good movie. I mean, that part could be better. That could be better." Of course, there's always the critical points, but I just want everybody, all our producers and executive, producer Ryuho Oka, we want people to feel that energy of like goodness when they leave. So yes, after all, I just feel something good about myself, and I wanna do something good for the world. That's the kind of energy and the thinking in spirituality we want to incorporate into any films that we create, and that's our mission of why we are doing this, creating the movies to the world.
Bravo. Yes. Well, we certainly need more of that. I mean, too often I go through series, and it's really crazy how they kind of end up.
Yeah,
I mean, you're invested, and then you end up really feeling very hollow at the end.
right.
Game of Thrones. I mean, that's not a great
Yeah.
example because it's a very that was always violent, crazily violent from the beginning.
There's a lot of I mean, it's good, exciting, but Happy Science, there's three major pillars. Any movie that we make is there has to be truth, goodness, and beauty. Those three has to be incorporated into a movie. So for some people it might be a little boring, but I think the world needs something like that as well. Somebody has to make a movie like that.
No, it's grand. It's grand. All right, so this is very specific, but tell me more about the astral travel. Is that something that you personally know about? And
I personally, no, I can't do that.
okay, I was just curious if that
Can
was
you?
strictly. Well, no, but I mean maybe. But I think it's very interesting. Here's a technique I heard one time. So everyone can try this. When you're dreaming, and you feel it, and when you're dreaming and you're really in the dream, you're
Yep.
supposed to at that point look down and see your hands. So not every dream you're going to really sort of feel that engaged.
Yeah.
But some dreams you're really in it. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
apparently if you can look down in your hands, it creates a new control, and you're placing yourself kind of in this other dimension that you're sleeping in. So I don't know. You could try that.
Interesting.
Now, that's
No, I'm
maybe the
gonna try it
beginnings.
tonight.
That's the
That's very
beginnings of astral travel.
Because if you have the consciousness in you and in your dream, you might be able to do that. So I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try.
Let's
I'm
just,
definitely gonna-
when we dream, and I think, if we're talking
Interesting.
about dreaming, by the way, because I think that's just sort of the first step. And then with astral travel, for
definitely.
example, in the
That's
movie,
right.
they're meditating, right?
That's
so
right,
they're
right.
guided. They're guided
Yep.
in the practice of meditation to attain that,
definitely.
and
Yep.
that stands everything from the breath to the posture, right? A proper,
That's right,
correct
everything. Yep.
spinal alignment, right? So for that energy, and again, that's in the movie. That's a vehicle for the movie.
That's a
not
vehicle,
as
yes, yes.
something that you're doing as a speaker and minister for Happy Science, but nevertheless intriguing and certainly mystifying, which could be of interest to people. But
Yes.
I think it's great again to see just some of the little samples and of again sort of the softer side of martial arts. I mean, just to remind people, and I say soft, but really it's not. I mean, being a spiritual warrior actually takes a lot of courage, just like everything
that's
that
right.
Yoishi's been talking about, that we've been talking about here. It takes a lot of courage to stay that path, and maybe people think that they don't understand what you're talking about, and you've changed and things like that. So I think these are all just again conversations and different people. I mean, Yoichi and I before the call talked about our past in the music business.
Yes, yes.
Crazy rock and roll in New York
Yeah,
City, and
yeah,
yet
yeah.
here we are. And this is like, spirituality maybe is that new
Yes.
kind of highs,
That's
right?
right. That's right. It's a new rock and roll,
The
definitely.
new rock and roll,
No
for
more hair
sure.
down to here. I have hair up to here now,
It
but
looks very, it's still, now you're just punk rock, you're
yeah.
not metal. You're not as much metal. You're just kind of punk rock now, Yoichi. So,
But
no, it's
I
really,
still have
what
this.
do we
Oh,
got?
you can see
Oh,
it.
we are looking at a
Ah,
beautiful guitar.
yeah, this is something I cannot go out with. So I mean, I cannot lose. So
Please
I,
don't.
s- I still
Please
have
don't.
it,
No.
and I enjoy it. It's as part of my hobby in my life, and it's a balance. I think important. Everything is a balance, right? So
No,
it's
I
it's
I definitely
sometimes
agree.
sometimes it's good that you go out there and have fun. Of course, we need to have that that kind of moments in your life as well. But at the end of the day, hopefully people will land somewhere safe and sound,
And happy.
peaceful and happy.
And happy, right?
Definitely, yes.
All right, everybody. So, this is taped in February of 2022. At some point, soon after taping here, you'll be able to see the Cherry Bushido in theaters around the
Yes,
country,
that's
around
right.
a number of markets in the U.S. There will also be other streaming rights. So there's a link to the website to find out more about how you can see this and experience it. And again, sharing some of the traditions of Japanese culture, philosophy, spirituality, and yet bringing it to modern day conversation of
That's
how
right.
people can really walk this path and the relevance of, perhaps even international, intrigue, if you will. Or
Yeah.
so it's really important. And I just want to say arigato for
Arigatou
coming
gozaimasu. Thank you
and
so
speaking
much.
with us. I learned a lot, and it's really beautiful to see what you're up to. And thank you so much for joining us on Truth Be Told.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All
Thank you.
right, sayonara.
Bye bye.
Wow, that was really great. And I'm really
Okay.
happy that you're
Thank
listening
you
and
so much.
watching on Truth Be Told Transformation. I'm Bonnie Burkert, and with a new episode every Wednesday. And we also have new episodes from Tony Sweet live every Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific with Truth Be Told, bringing you ufology, paranormal, and all kinds of up-to-date wow factors on what's happening out there. And then we mustn't forget Robert Hensley every Monday live at 3 p.m. Pacific with the Minuteman Report, also exploring what's happening unknown now, but soon to be revealed. The truth must be revealed. Thanks again for listening. Thanks for sharing. Until the next time, I will say sayonara.